Hey everybody. This is a kind of a continuation again of awakening to the new paradigm. So, as I've been going through my own process, I realized that awakening to the new paradigm is kind of like a misleading title because it's not really new. The new paradigm isn't new. It's just what is. So it's kind of it's new to you if you're adjusting to it, or kind of, it's almost like going back to it because it's kind of, it's like returning to your essential paradigm. Um, so I'll explain what I mean by that. So, like when people talk about awakening, usually it's connected to this idea of truth. Like, what is truth? You and it's like awakening to some kind of truth that was always there. It was only your recognition of it not that was not there, like your focus was elsewhere. So this awakening experience or process has everything to do with the truth of who we are and going into that process, because we're awakening to this idea that, you know the the idea that we have of ourselves is what we've believed ourselves to be. And so we're kind of awakening to this fact that the world that we're living in is a world based on our thoughts and notions. And it's, like, even if there was, or even if there is an external world, you know out there, that it would be impossible for you to differentiate between that world and your experience of it, if that makes any sense. So, just the mere act of being of witnessing it is is affecting it. Um, and so I think the problem is that we're we're misidentifying. So everything that's part of the world, the manifest, is constantly changing. So everything's just in this constant state of flux, and we call that time. Time is the recognition of change. So anything that you can observe is in a state of change, and things come to you as the observer, and then they go. Everything is in this state of coming and going. It's all the world. It's all, you know, what you're perceiving, but it's it's colored by your notions about it. And so you're living not in the world as it is, but in the world as you are. And so you're like living in your mind, basically. It's like, what is sound but the experience of sound? Like, so there is, yeah, there is no sound without the experience of it. So, and I think this is basically the essential truth about, or just the essential truth is, there needs to be an observer for there to be anything, or there needs to be observing, I should say. Um, Maybe this is getting a little too heady, but we'll just keep going. Um, so essentially, we have identified incorrectly with the changing, because our mind itself is changing constantly. Thoughts coming, going, our notions about things is constantly changing. Even our idea of ourselves is constantly changing, and yet there is something that observes all of this changing and is remains unchanged. You understand what I'm saying? So that even the most inward part of you that feels like it is evolving on a soul level or something, or that there's some path. Even that is observed within this still unchanging awareness. It's it's the only unchanging thing. It's not even a thing. That's the thing. It's not a thing, you know? So, what we have to realize is that we are the stillness of being, and we are merely witnessing the ego identity and its many, uh, barriers that it's built for itself, and its many mind games and its endless time. It's all tied up into time. Time is the measure of change, but you are the unchanging. So you're not in time at all. And that's why it's always here and now. That's your position. That's your nature. So this all ties into the idea of this this seeking of fulfillment externally. That's the mind. It's the mind that tells you that you need something in the world in order to be fulfilled, in order to feel complete. That's the mind, because the mind is invested in in the world, because the mind is a part of the world. So, but you can observe all these things. So if you can observe it, it can't be you. Even the feelings, the thoughts, they're just flowing by this still point of perception, which is you. And even the thought I, which seems to be the most primordial aspect of being, is this I feeling. Even that is observed within this awareness. So it seems like to even identify that is to limit it, and you are limitless. So it's like this, it's just this same one being emanating through all of these seemingly separate, focuses of being. So when that part of you begins to awaken, there begins to be this distinguishing between you and the world, between the stillness and the changefulness. And when you abide in that stillness, then all of the problems and the hang-ups of the ego that has this laborious, burdensome story that it has to lug on its back, all its memories and all this clutter, that fogs up the you know the now, the eternal now moment. It's always taking the attention into the the past or the future, which are just these concepts, like back into the mind, just these concepts, instead of what is right now, here, always present. Don't have it's effortless. No spiritual practice necessary. Absolutely effortless. You can't fail at it. You can only you can only, obscure what is there or not recognize it. But you don't have to do anything. And like even the mind can't comprehend this because it's made for doing. It's its own, that's what it lives for. So, the mind's going to tell you that that's impossible. It can't be that easy. But it is. It's just here and now, at any moment, it is what you are. Have you just need to recognize it and give recognition to that wordless, in like ineffable, expansive space of being that we all are. So, you know, this doesn't mean that when, everything goes away. It's just that when you still have your life, you're still living, you still have things that come up, but you see them from uh, this large, a more uh, larger perspective. The the problems don't seem as, I mean, they're just passing. They're illusions. They're just kind of flashes on the screen. Most people can't remember what they were hung up about, like a couple years ago. Yet they're fretting about something now. But it only takes it's only the now recognition that is required, um, to bring you back to that. You know, and I mean. That's just meditation. It's like life becomes a meditation of bring yourself back to the now moment, to the only thing that is, just the immediate experience of being. The felt presence. Um, and your mind will do whatever it can to distract you away from that. You know, um, but the more that we can dwell in that stillness and return to that, it's a very familiar place. I mean, it's not even a place. It's not. It's a very familiar non-place because it's our essence. It's just pure being. So yeah, we just need to recognize it and kind of get out of its way. I've said it before, like the ego, the, the 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 more attached we are to this ego identity, this person with a personality that has a whole story that it's in a narrative that it's enacting, um, the the more attached the more attached we are to that concept, that idea that we have of ourselves, which we've already you know shown isn't real because it's constantly changing. So it's like this. It's not this. It's not the truth. The truth is just is. The truth is always is. It's unchanging. So you know, the more that we identify with that ego self, it, it's kind of like that's getting in the way. It's eclipsing, the light of our true being. Our true nature emanating out. It's like it dims that light. So, like the more that we realize that idea that we have of ourself is actually this limitation on who we are, And so giving up that is actually like this expanding out of the identity, this releasing of the limitations we've put on that, on the identity, releasing even the need to identify in the first place. And it's this very strange but wonderful, like kind of abstract, nondescript uh, being state. And you realize that the being state doesn't actually require an I to be there because the I is observed within it. You know, like the closest thing I can kind of put it to is like when you wake up in the morning. Right when you wake up in the morning, there's this kind of in between moment where there's an awareness, but not necessarily you haven't it's almost like you haven't remembered the whole story that you're enacting, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, yep, like so and so, blah blah blah. I got to get up for work, blah blah blah, and then instantly time starts, blah blah blah, blah and you know your whole ego construct identity comes like mind thing comes crashing back, you know. But that is observed within this other space, you know, this awareness. So there's this deeper, more pure awareness that doesn't actually require an I. And it's like you when you go really deep, and you'll see that like the I-ness is actually the separating factor. It's like it's the thing that we it's like the thing that separates you from the rest of everything else. So if you're going to experience oneness, like the I has to go away, you know. The I has to be abandoned. You have to surrender that also. Um, and you know that's when you experience the true self, you know, the eyeless self. So said a lot, kind of heady stuff. But anyway, um, I hope to keep making these videos. I hope you enjoy them. Namaste, everybody. Thank you.